Amen. We can come back to reform line that we were doing, unless anybody's got any questions. Anyone have any questions? No? Sister Juliana? This is the reform line that we began earlier in the week. Could you give us as much information as you can? Sorry?
No, I can't.
You can't give anything?
No.
Why?
Because I'm tired.
So am I. I don't want to be here either. So let's begin.
Yeah, but I really can.
You don't want to participate in the class? No?
But what we can.
The line we began with this week. The Millerite line.
The first one.
At the beginning.
17, 18, 16, 18. Do I have to tell what it is?
We'll just give the dates at the moment.
1833. 1831. 1838. 20.
Do you remember the month?
What?
Do you remember the month?
August.
August? Do you remember the day? No?
11. And then, did I stop there?
Initially we went much further.
Oh, okay. 1844? No, yeah, 1844.
A particular month? Any month?
July. And then August 1st.
August 1st?
Yeah. And then August 15th. And then 1816.
We didn't go that far.
1850.
We didn't go that far. That's it? Sister Ruth? Any other dates? No? Sister Daniela?
1843.
We put 1843? Here?
Yeah,
No?
No, April 19th, 1843.
Anything else? No? Sister Rachel? Sister Denise?
I thought we had written a June 42.
You told me you didn't have a good memory.
Well, I thought we did an April 43, but I might have written that down wrong.
I think you wrote that down wrong. It's 44.
There was August 12 and 14.
That's it? Brother David?
I think it's sufficient. Other than what you mentioned, where talk about the spiritual, the year ending on August.
Who mentioned?
April 18. She did mention. Yeah, she mentioned that just now. I don't know if we included on the line. I think we did make mention of it.
What did she say?
We had said that the year ends on April 1843, and the new year begins on April 1844, which is there anyway. So,
So that's why you were doing April the 19th, 1843.
That's how I'd written it down. I
Yeah.
never did change it to 44.
Any other dates? Sister Catherine? No? So we've got 1798, 16, 18, 31, 33, 38, 40, 42, and someone put June 43, April the 18th and 19th, 44, May 2nd, July 21st, July the 1st, August 12th, 13th, 14th. So it's May 2nd that we've missed. Yeah? You're okay with that? Oh, before we go, Sister Catherine, what's the June 1840? I think that was you, or not? Who was that? Who's going to own up? No one? Well, you must remember who if it was you. Sorry?
I'm trying to think of it.
We'll blame Sister Effie. Good idea. I like that. She's not here to defend herself, so blame her. Sorry?
Michael's and Salon's were in there also.
We'll blame her. (1798), Sister Wendy.
We have Daniel 11:40. And Revelation 13:10.
Daniel 11:40. And
Revelation 13:10.
Revelation 13.
I like 3, but we had to.
So we have 10. But we had it here when we did it the second time.
We had to do that.
Yep, the next day. Anything else? No? You all good with that? Sister Rachel, 16.
Is when Millerite began his 2 years of serious Bible study?
So we've got 2 years. A reference for that? Should be in your notes if you took notes.
I don't remember that. Even I remember the one about the Baptist ministry part. I have that.
Sister Ruth?
It's GC 326. 329.
Paragraph
Two.
2. Is it from your notes or your memory?
It's not on my notes.
Sorry?
It's not on my notes.
So you did that from memory? Good. Can you find it? It's GC. Is it in your notes?
No.
329 paragraph 2. Good. Someone have it? Yeah? Sister Catherine, can you just read the first sentence?
He had devoted 2 years to the study of the Bible when in 1818 he reached the solemn conviction that in about 25 years Christ would appear for
Good.
the redemption.
So it doesn't say 16, it says 18, but it gives us the 2 years. So we have 2 years there. And obviously now we've got 1818. So, Brother Douglas, we're in 1818. What do we do now? According to the passage. Just want to build a picture of what we're reading. Do you have it in front of you? So we want to put what we're reading onto the board.
So we say that when you are studying, like you were 2 years to make the study. So
Just a little bit louder. Sorry.
So are we moving on to 1831 or we're still staying?
You can find 31 in there.
No. I don't understand the question. Sorry. Can you repeat?
Okay. We've got which dates?
1818.
There's 1818. What other date do we have?
And this passage right here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just 1818.
That's what's given to us.
Yes.
But we have extra information. What extra information what other information do we have?
She studied for 2 years.
So here's the 2 years.
So 1816.
So we've got 16. So finish it off. There's more.
Finish.
There's more. There's more information.
Okay. Okay. So he says that in about 25 years.
So finish the board work for us. Finish the board work. I had 18, 2 years, 16. If I had colours, I would have put that in blue because we've calculated that. But there's more information in the sentence. So I want a pictorial representation of what we're reading. 1818, 2 years. There's more in the passage than that. Not sure? Sister Denise?
I will just draw a line pointing to 1844, 25 number.
Okay? So we had 3 numbers in that sentence. 1818, 2 and 25. Yeah? And the 2 would go backwards. Contextually, that's what it's saying. He studied for 2 years. When? In 1818. So we created the 16. So now we've got 25 years. And so now you're going to create...
1843.
Okay, not 44. 1818 plus 25, Sister Denise.
1331.
Surly,
It's going to take me a minute, I'm not quick in math.
that's fine. 8 plus 5,
13,
2 plus 1, plus 1. 1843. Okay, so that's... I'm going to mark it here because I know some information that isn't in the passage. It just says 25 years. It says 1843. We create 1843. It doesn't say 1843, but I'm just going to put it here if we're okay with that. Everybody okay so far with that passage? GC 392 paragraph 2. If we'd like, because that's June 42, I'll do that.
Sorry, the passage 391.
Oh, have I got it wrong? 329, sorry. Thank you. 329 paragraph 2. Any questions on that? Are you up to speed, Sister Effie? Yeah? Okay. This is the year 1843.
oh, okay.
12-month period. So he said sometime around. He doesn't know. I don't know if it's the beginning or end. Okay with that? Sister Daniela, explain what he's saying here. In 1818, 25 years, what can we draw from that?
I'm not sure if I understand correctly. However, I would say that, from what I understand what you're saying, that Miller studied for the 2 years, and during his study, he was able to realize that in 25 years the world was coming to an end. And so he knew that in 1843, from his studies, Jesus would be coming.
So when does he know that?
He knows that after he finishes his studies,
Which year?
1818.
So in 1818, he knows that this is going to be the end. Yeah? So what more studying does he need to do?
I think to come up with a date exactly when,
He's come up with a date.
like the day. Because he says in about 25 years, so he didn't have a particular date.
Do you think he wants to have a date?
I can't tell from the passage.
Okay, that's right, you can't tell from the passage. Sister Ruth?
Initially, he didn't want to have a specific date.
He wants to give himself some leeway, some room. Okay, so what I want us to see is that in 1818, he's finished his studies. He's got all the information that he needs to predict the second advent. Yeah? So I want to call 1818 the conclusion. So if we just briefly skip through some of this information, if he's come to the conclusion here, what impact does 31 have? on what he's just said, Brother David?
So between 1818 and 18...
I'm not asking what he's doing or what he's not doing. What I'm asking is what impact does the year 1831 have on his statement?
That's 11 years between those 2 years. So that gives him... He doesn't start preaching that message.
I'm not asking for the history.
Okay.
I'm asking what impact the date has. That event, 31, what impact does it have on this statement? I'm not asking what he does, I'm asking what impact that has.
It solidifies his conviction, his confidence, gives him more conviction.
It solidifies it, you think?
I think.
31?
I'm not sure. I don't understand.
You understand my question? Or Sister Wendy, what impact does 31 have on his conclusion?
I don't know how to explain it. I don't really know. I know what happened in 31, but I don't know how it would impact his conclusion.
33?
Maybe give him more confidence, I'm not sure.
Okay, so it might give you more confidence, which is what I think what Brother David's saying. Brother James, 31?
Wouldn't impact his conclusion.
Sorry?
Wouldn't impact his conclusion.
No impact? Sister Daniela? You don't know the answer, or?
I don't know the answer.
Sister Effie?
I would also say, since he began preaching, he must have been very convicted and encouraged based on the response of the people who started preaching. So encouragement, he was encouraged.
So it becomes encouraged. That's the impact. 33?
The stars fall is certified more emphasis.
So the impact is what?
That his conclusion is true. That's
How would 33 show that his conclusion is true?
because of the stars falling, and that verse happens before the sign of the Son of Man. So he realizes that his conclusion is true.
Okay, Brother,
Since the stars fell in that year.
Brother David?
Impact. The other thing that comes to my mind is that because it's good preaching star out everyone. So he's been running to the churches, and that's the only thing that occurs to my mind.
Okay, well, what's that got to do with the conclusion that he's come to?
That's drawing people.
So he, along with many other people, is a successful preacher.
William Miller is at least he himself is because.
Is he?
No, I'm saying William Miller was a good speaker.
Along with many other good speakers who are all bringing in money or becoming famous, saving people. I want to make it negative. How would that impact his conclusion? Brother James, why do you say it doesn't have any impact?
His message doesn't change. He just finally starts preaching it.
So there's no change in the message, he finally starts preaching it. Sister Effie, did I ask you about 31 or just 33?
Yes,
Both? And you're saying the impact is?
it encouraged him as a man. He felt that he had a duty to present what he had come to. So if you're having that conviction, if you're convicted enough to start preaching, then you must really believe your conclusion is true. And once you start telling people about it, you can get settled in your conviction. So I'd say in that way, that step had an impact.
Sister Denise?
If I'm understanding your question, right, I would say it gives the conclusion, the message power. Nobody can believe it if they don't know about it. He starts preaching about it and people start listening and it grows.
Yeah. 33, Brother James?
The question is, how does it affect the conclusion?
Yeah, what impact does it have?
What impact or how does it affect it?
If you see those differently, answer it either way. To me, they don't sound much different.
Well, what impact does it have? He has credentials, so more churches might be willing to let him speak because he's not just a layperson now.
And Sister Effie saying it confirms that, not in a direct way, that he at least is in the right ballpark, that things are happening as he's suggesting that they are. What do you think?
I think I see lots of mega churches that seem pretty successful, and I don't think that they're preaching the right thing. So I don't know that that would tell me that he's on the right track.
That the stars fall.
Oh,
In 30,
sorry.
sorry, 33, yeah. That the stars
I
fall.
thought you were just talking about the credentials. Yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah? Anyone else? Brother Douglas?
So he had, after understanding the message in 1818, he had this personal conviction that he needs to share this message, that the blood of the people will be on him. So in 1831, that's when he gave his first lecture. So now he was sharing his faith, and he believed that he was doing that which God has called him to do. Then 1833, when the stars fell in the whole Christian world, it fulfilled one of the Savior's predictions of the falling of the stars, and it added more power to the message of his son coming.
Sister Rachel?
I would think that his conclusion he came to in 1818 would be different in 1831 because now he's only 12 years from 1843. In that sense.
And is that changing the conclusion?
Yeah, because in 1818 it's 25 years, and 1831 now it's 12 years. That's why it's
Even though he gives a number, the conclusion isn't the 25. What's the conclusion? That's the conclusion, isn't it? So when you get to 31, it's still the same conclusion. So there's no change in that sense. Everyone okay? So he's making 1818 and 31, 33, 38, 40, even 42, all of that, does that change anything with respect to his conclusion? Has his conclusion changed in any way? No? So there's no change in his conclusion. I think that's what Brother James was trying to portray. That from 1818, for 25 years, there's no change in that message. It remains fixed, firm, has integrity to it. He doesn't say, oh, I made a mistake somewhere. It has everything that can take you right to the very end. 31, he's coming under conviction over this 12-year period? 13? Yeah, 13 period. Someone was saying, I think someone said 11. So over this period, he's coming under conviction, particularly towards the end. He gets this idea that he needs to go and tell his message to the world. He's coming under conviction. He makes a deal with God, and providentially, he's forced to begin preaching. So he's had some, not just Bible study now he's had a personal confrontation with God. must have had some kind of impact upon him, may perhaps give him some confidence that, not that his message is true, I think he already knows that it's true, but that God is with him. So I want to separate or distinguish the fact that there's no change. He doesn't become more confident that he's correct with respect to the answer, but as God's leading him and he sees things happening, he can be more sure. I think that's the thought that you're expressing. God's with him here in 31, as Brother Douglas mentioned. Then 33, the stars fall. And when the stars fall, it's a clear reference that the second coming is near. So it must have strengthened his faith in that sense. And then he gets recognition from the world. I'm not sure how much impact that really had upon him. I get the impression he was a humble and a straightforward type of a person, and I don't think getting the credentials would have changed anything. And besides, when he got those credentials, they weren't of the same quality as the credentials for other people. Why were they not of the same quality, Sister Wendy?
Well, he didn't get the pastor pay.
He didn't get the pastor's pay, yeah. They give him a certificate, it's kind of like a token gesture, but they don't give him the full rights of a pastor. So even though we might think, it's positive, in one way it's kind of a bit of a sting, like an insult, that, we'll give you this certificate, and by the way, the reason we're giving it to you is because you're bringing in, whether it's money or people, but we're not really going to give you the remuneration, the pay that the certificate would confer upon a normal person. So it's a double-edged sword. So that's 31 and 33. 31, he begins preaching. 33, the stars fall and he receives his certificate. Someone had a question? No?
I'm just trying to rephrase the answer to the question. So in my mind...
Tell us the question.
Sorry, because the question was, you were asking what is the impact in 1831 on his conclusion he had reached in 1818. So as far as his conclusion was, as far as the conclusion is concerned, there was no impact as far as a personal conviction was in the validity of the conclusion. There was I don't want to say conviction. I guess I can say his faith was strengthened. This is not including 1833, I'm just between 1818 and 1831. Is that fair? To put it that way? Because I think you were trying to make a distinction. So I'm trying to see if that's the correct way to see it.
The distinction I want us to see is whatever personal conviction he comes under here, that either strengthens or discourages or whatever happens in this whole history, his conclusion never changes. So he's made no mistakes. 1833, you had a reference for this? Sister Effie? The Spirit Prophecy quote, sorry. Sister Rachel?
GC 332.1.
Sister Catherine, 1831, a reference, please. Do you have it in your notes? You take notes on your phone, or are you looking for? Sorry, I can't hear.
I said it must be right in that chapter.
Oh, so you haven't taken note on it. Sister Wendy, did you take notes on that?
I guess I didn't write
Sister Danielle, did you?
Yeah, well, no.
Sister Danielle, you took notes on that?
I don't think we mentioned it.
Good observation, we didn't. Who's going to come up with a reference for it?
Oh. You want one?
GC 330.2.
330?
0.2.
GC 330.2. He began to present his views in private as he had opportunity, praying that some minister might feel their force and devote himself to their promulgation. But he could not banish the conviction that he had a personal duty to perform in giving the warning. The words were ever recurring to his mind, "Go and tell it to the world. Their blood will I require at thy hand." For 9 years he waited, the burden still pressing upon his soul, until in 1831 he for the first time publicly gave the reasons of his faith. So we've got 1831 GC 332. Anybody see a little problem? Anyone see a little problem? She said 9 years. We've got 13 years. So we've got a date missing. Sister Juliana, do you know the date? Brother Jeffrey, the date? Do you remember the numbers? 9 years to 31, the date. Okay? Good. 22. So there's an extra date there, 22. There's another reference here, GC 333, paragraph 1. So we'll just read 333, paragraph 1, and someone find where this 1822 is coming from. Brother Douglas, perhaps you might be able to find it. I'm going to read 333, paragraph 1. In 1833, 2 years after Miller began to present in public the evidences of Christ's soon coming, the last sign appeared. So 332 paragraph 2 is his credentials, and 333 paragraph 1 is the stars, but it gives you the 2 years. Does that make sense? So we've got, for 31 we've got a direct reference and a secondary reference. Everybody okay with that? So 333 paragraph 1 gives you, it's actually the date is 33, but you can go back to 31, just like we did here in 329. Did you find anything, or anyone's found anything? 1822.
GC 329.3.
Okay, just give me 1 second. 330 paragraph 2. Okay, the reference you're given is 329.3. Were you there? 329.3. When the solemn conviction that such momentous events were predicted in the scriptures to be fulfilled in so short a space of time, the question came home to me with mighty power regarding my duty to the world, in view of the evidence that had affected my mind. So this is William Miller's biography. I think it's by Bliss. It's by Bliss. It says in the paragraph before. He could now come to spirit prophecy, he could not but feel that it was his duty to impart to others the light which he had received. He expected to encounter opposition from the ungodly, but was confident that all Christians would rejoice in the hope of meeting the Saviour, whom they professed to love. His only fear was that in their great joy at the prospect of glorious deliverance, so soon to be consummated, many would receive the doctrine without sufficiently examining the Scriptures in demonstration of its truth. Are we all there? Sister Daniela, what does that last sentence mean? I'll read it again. His only fear was that in their great joy at the prospect of glorious deliverance, so soon to be consummated, many would receive the doctrine without sufficiently examining the Scriptures in demonstration of its truth. Sister Catherine, what does consummated mean?
Finished.
Okay, so soon to be finished or completed, the glorious deliverance which was soon to be completed, many would receive the doctrine without sufficiently examining the Scriptures in demonstration of its truth. What's his concern? What's he talking about here? What's the worry?
He's worried that the people might just accept what he's saying without really proving it for themselves and understanding that that is exactly what is going to happen for themselves. Rather just with the excitement of the time is coming to an end, just get on board.
Get on board, you said? Okay. Can you just repeat what you said so that we get it the second time? What's his concern?
His concern was that the people, out of excitement that the time is coming to an end, or that Jesus is coming, out of the excitement, they might just accept whatever his conclusion was without having to prove it for themselves and understand it and really see it for themselves.
Okay, so stop there. Just prove it for themselves. Okay. The rest was a repeat. Just want to keep it short and neat. Sister Rachel, what's his problem? Concern?
He's worried they're not going to study for themselves. I don't know exactly. I mean, I see that he sees the great importance of studying for themselves. Maybe, I know he's got confidence in his message, but maybe he wants them to confirm it for themselves. I don't know exactly.
Sister Effie?
I agree with what has been said so far. I agree. But
Just tell me what you agree on. Yeah, just say it, even in the same way, I don't mind. Just say it with your own words.
So he was worried that they'll just have a mere assent to the truth without believing it in the heart.
Yep. Sister Wendy?
I can't change much what Sister Daniela said. I really like the way she said it. That he was in their joy, in that prospect of the soon, that it was coming soon, that they would not take the time to examine the Scriptures.
I'm pretty sure she didn't say that.
She didn't. Not exactly.
No, substantially different.
Oh, okay.
Because what have you just said that she didn't say?
That they wouldn't take the time?
It wouldn't take the time because?
Because it was coming so soon.
Yeah, so the other people, no one mentioned that. So, say it again.
Because the time was coming so soon, they wouldn't take the time to study the Scriptures, examine the Scriptures.
Brother Douglas, why is that a serious concern?
That they wouldn't take time to prepare for the temple because he was coming soon. Yeah.
That's the question, yeah. They believed.
The belief would be superficial, which is building on sand. The temptations come with the test, will be washed away. Okay.
Okay, so what is not sufficient then? It's not sufficient to have.
It's not sufficient to have a superficial knowledge or understanding or going by.
So it's not sufficient to have a superficial belief, and you said going by. I cut you off.
No, a superficial belief based on
Based on.
what someone is saying, rather than you actually internalizing and learning for yourself what you're grounded in.
Okay, so having an acceptance of the truth because someone said it is not enough. Is that what you think?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, and what's driving the people to do that?
The events that are being portrayed to come in the near future.
So there's not enough time to do what?
There is not enough time supposedly
Yeah, whether it's supposed or not, but to do what?
to be able to internalize this message, to be able to go back and examine the scripture in demonstration of this truth.
So there's not enough time to study.
Supposedly, that's what
That's what his concern. He says his only fear was that in their great joy at the prospect of, I'm going to say, the second advent, so soon to come, many would receive the doctrine of the second advent without sufficiently examining the scriptures in demonstration of its truth, without checking it out themselves. Any other points that anyone wants to make?
It just makes me think that somebody else's anchor is not going to keep my boat from floating away.
Say that again so we get it.
Somebody else's anchor is not going to keep my boat from floating away. He was anchored, isn't
Yeah. You say that again. Some of us don't get it.
Somebody else's anchor is not going to keep my boat.
Don't use that. Don't explain the analogy.
He was anchored in the truth, but they weren't.
Does that make sense? Yeah? So he's anchored in the... What's anchored him?
The truth, the study, the Bible.
The study of the Bible, not the factuality of the answers that you get from the Bible. So the study is what's anchored him. Because they believe it, they accept those verses. They say, yep, we can do the calculation, 1843, we accept it. But that's not enough. His fear is it's not enough. And what's driving them down this road? The subject of
The nearness
nearness
of the second advent.
or time. The thing that's causing them problem is time. There's not enough time to study. So let's finish it off because we're looking at 22. He therefore hesitated to present it. So he doesn't want to, he says, if I present the truth, people aren't going to study. So the solution is not to present it to them. Think about that. Okay, so Sister Tess knows about November the 9th. 18 months before, a little bit more perhaps, we'll say 18, say in the spring of 2018. And she says, because it's not nowhere near 25 years or even 12 years or whatever, she says, I've got 18 months, and if I present this message and say it's 18 months, you know what's going to happen is people are going to get excited by the event and they're not going to study it, so therefore I don't think I'm just going to share it with anyone. Because isn't that what he's saying? Just don't share it. He therefore hesitated to present it, lest he should be in error and be the means of misleading others. Okay, so now in the second sentence, we see a little bit more of the problem. See a little bit more of the problem. So they got the answer. What's the answer?
25 years, Jesus is coming.
Sorry?
25 years, Jesus is coming.
So the answer is 1843.
1840.
So it's 1843, that's the answer that he comes to. And he says, if I share the doctrine with people, what will they do, Sister Effie? What will they do?
They'll accept it and be excited.
So they'll accept it. That's what they will do. They'll accept it. What will they not do? They won't study it. And what's the problem if you accept it and you don't study, Sister Ruth? What's he worried?
It's easy to, I guess, like, that let's say, to be raised,
We're in the second sentence. He therefore. No, yeah, he therefore. What's his worry?
saying that he's worried that there's a possibility that he could be married.
Okay. So he's worried that he's made a mistake. And then what will happen?
And thus mislead others.
So they're just going to copy his mistake. And how's that going to happen, Sister Daniela? They're just going to copy his mistake. Why would they just copy his mistake?
Because why would they copy his mistake? Because they haven't studied it for themselves. They will just,
Because they're not studying for themselves. And why they're not studying?
they're too excited. The time is coming to it.
Because there's not enough time to study. So, can we see this situation is a situation that confronts us? So, can you imagine the stress that teachers are currently under, who are presenting a message based upon time, and it's like a tenth of what they're dealing with. And if people are going to accept these truths, they're just going to say, it's complicated, it's too much information, who understands about Pyrrhus, First World War, Second World War? Just tell us the answer and we'll believe it. And can you imagine the stress that people are under who are teaching these things if they've made a mistake? Because how do you know they haven't made a mistake? How do you really know? You had a feeling, some stars fell, you have some signs around you. Is that sufficient? Are the stars falling sufficient to know that Miller is correct? Can't be. So, the reason why I think this is really important for us to really internalise is that, if I can say it just in this dynamic, all of you and all of us, so the teachers and the students, we're in a huge dilemma, a huge problem. And the people who are in the greatest danger is you folks. Because if you're just going to accept the conclusions without studying for yourselves, and how can you study for yourself? Because there's not enough time. And so if you go down that route, it's dangerous, extremely dangerous. And if we just jump forward to 1843, are his fears realised, Sister Wendy? They are. His fears, everything that he feared was realised, because what had he done, Sister Catherine?
He hadn't seen that it was actually 24.
So he should be in error. So was he in error? He was in a big error. So he's in error, and everything that he feared came to pass. And what happened in 43 at the end of that time period? What did it look like? People left. Everything that he feared came to pass. So was he right to have these fears? He certainly was. Everything that he thought would happen did happen. People accepted the message, they weren't studying for themselves, and he was in error. So when the prediction came and passed the date of the prediction and all those people left, it was a huge disappointment. I don't think we can really appreciate how bad it was.
So, a message on time is good and bad, because these people, because of the shortness of time, they were like, but to me, even if the message wasn't on time, if they had time, I don't think they would have studied. They must very well, but they jumped on board because of the time, but they weren't wholehearted. But even if there wasn't time, they still would have been wholehearted.
So the other thing of interest is, okay, if we're in 1818, we've got 25 years. How many things have they got to study, and they've got 25 years to do it? What do they need to study? When he said they need to study for themselves, you know, we use that. She didn't quite say it that way. What do they actually need to study for themselves? Give me the Bible stories or whatever. What do they need to study for themselves? Daniel 8:14. And you've got 25 years to study one Bible verse. That's what it appears on the surface, is it not? What's the reality? Look at it. I don't mean it's a mess in a bad way, but you know, it's a whole heap of numbers. So when we talk about just the one verse, they need to have a comprehensive understanding of the Bible, really in its completeness. So 25 years is not enough to learn this chart. That's what his concern is. Just think about that. And we've got 2 charts to learn. We've got 2 charts to unlearn, 63, and another one. So we've got things to learn, things to unlearn. And this is kind of like what we teach in the first couple of weeks. We expect everyone to know that and be up to speed, you know, after a week like this. If we were doing that, I expect you to know all that information in a week. And they've got 25 years to do it. And he says, 25 years is not very long. It's too short. Because this is just like the preliminary stuff. We've got a whole heap to do. 10 times as much information as we have, and 1/10 of the time to do it. So I don't know what 10 times and 1/10 means, but it's like, I think it's probably like 100-fold or something. It's virtually an impossible task. And if you cross your fingers and say, well, I go by faith, Tessie's a nice person, God's leading her, sounds good, must be right, all these November the 9th, and we'll just go with it. Because we're at the tail end of our movement. Elder Jeff was led by God. We're in a really risky, dangerous position if you take that road. Sister Wendy.
All I was going to say is we have less time.
Yeah?
We have a lot less time. From Sister Tess's message.
Yeah. So if you think, I don't know the exact moment when she got, but if you go to 2018, which is 18, that's 18 months around, which is a 10th.
And so much of her message is not straight out of the Bible. Where do we find it?
First World War, Second World War, history of Pyrrhus.
Those are the subjects. Where do you find it?
Yeah. Everything's been, depending on one's perspective, if phones weren't invented, if we didn't have laptops, if the internet was not here, we would not have a message now. Without that increase of knowledge, I used to mock Adventist preachers when they said increase of knowledge. Look at all the technology. I said, of course it's not technology. It's an increase of knowledge on the scriptures, on information from the Bible. But I've had to eat my own words, and I think that I'm not denying that it is an increase of understanding on the Bible, but it is an increase of information. As a symbol, if we did not have Wikipedia, we would not have a midnight cry message. And I'm not saying, you know, Wikipedia is something special. It's just a symbol of the whole information that each of us has access to, that no one in past generations has been able to do that. It would be impossible for us to accept the midnight cry message, the same problem they're having, without the internet. You'd have to rely upon someone, an academic who had, you know, special insight or access to a huge library, and even then they wouldn't be able to do it. You just can't search for the things. So I think this is really pertinent to us. We're all in this danger zone. Like the presenter, you think they're faithful and they're nice, whatever it is, you're in grave danger. Don't ask me what the solution is, because I have no idea for you to reconcile, because I'm in the same problem. How do I reconcile it? How do I learn sufficiently what I need to learn to be confident that it's correct? Brother James.
I just want to add, I mean, it's kind of obvious, but maybe it's not obvious. We just read several times in the last couple of days that Miller did it in 2 years. That's Miller did it in 2 years. We can do it. I mean, the information on the chart. You know, his way is people's lives are going to get in the way. But if they understand the seriousness of it, and they put the emphasis on it that is needed, we all have to do it.
I don't think it is obvious, but that's a really good point. He's talking about these 25 years, this short period, but he does it in 2 years. If he can do it in 2 years, clever people could do it quicker. And people who maybe are not as diligent as him could do it in 3 years, 4 years. So I think that's a really important point. It's achievable. We could do it if we really were serious about this issue. The numbers would work. So I like that point. He did it in 2 years. It's obvious on the board. If he can do it, why can't everyone else do it? So this 25 years is more than sufficient time. He therefore hesitated to present it, lest he should be in error and be the means of misleading others. He was thus led to review the evidences in support of the conclusions at which he had arrived, and to consider carefully every difficulty which presented itself to his mind. So he says, it's 1818, I'm not going to present this because I might have made a mistake. And if I've made a mistake, human nature is that they're not going to study, I'm going to lead them astray, and I'll have blood on my hands. So his solution is not to beat people up, but to do what? To review the evidences in support of the conclusions which he had arrived at, and to consider carefully every difficulty which presented itself to his mind. He found that objections vanished before the light of God's word, as mist before the rays of the sun. 5 years spent thus left him fully convinced of the correctness of his position. So he studies for 2 years, and then he takes another 3 years. Is that 3 years? 18, 19, 20, 21, 20, that's 4 years. So how's she get in 5 years? 5 years spent thus left him fully convinced. How's those numbers working if we've got... 3?
Is it possible to get into inclusive and exclusive reckoning?
It must be something along those lines, because it begins in 16, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20. It comes to 21. So I don't know how those numbers are working. Then if anybody can reconcile that. So he does 2 years of study, and then it looks like he did, it's 18 to 22 is 4 years, but I think she's making that into 5 years, somehow from 18 to 22, probably including the 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 5 years. So he's doing this, if you just count the numbers, it's 6 years, but 5 plus 2 is 7 years. So 6 to 7 years, 2 years of study, 5 years of review, before he's fully convinced. So where do we read the 9 years? 330.2. 330.2. For 9 years, he waited, the burden still pressing upon his soul, till in 31, he publicly presented. So, the year 1818, the year 2018, you can see a connection, a conclusion has been arrived at. There's a fear that people are going to accept the conclusion and not study for themselves. And the problem is, what about if there's a mistake? And in their history there was, and his fears, his worst fears were fulfilled. So the Millerite history is the template for our history. Does that mean we've made some mistake about 2019, November the 9th? Are we going to have we got some mistake that no one's realised because no one's been studying? Or is it different? Is our line different? Anyone else got any thoughts? It's perhaps not easy to see it in this context, but there are differences, and you can't really do, not easily at least, do this 25 years conclusion from 1818. You can't make 1818 and 2018 equivalent. They're not really equivalent. There are subtle differences. So the dynamics of that history is not exactly the same as our dynamic. But we'll go with the simple, succinct answer that our line is a line of success and their line is not. With,
Can you also say that, can we go with the quote that says that the history from, is it 1840 to 1844 is,
glorious manifestation?
yeah, it's a perfect, there was no human intervention. So can we cut out that history? Can we separate it from the previous one?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying there are subtle differences in this dispensation compared to where we are at the moment. So even though it looks subtly the same, there are differences. But I just wanted to draw the point that this concern that he has that people don't study is directly connected to shortness of time. And we need to be really careful, you need to be really careful, that you don't fall into this trap, that you don't study because you say there's not enough time to study. We've done 1798, we've done 16, 18, 22, and 31. We've got Spirit of Prophecy quotes, and we've got Spirit of Prophecy quote for 33. Just want the Bible references without looking, please. For 1833, the Bible quotes. Sister Effie already looked. I'll ask her.
And after the 24 to 29.
Okay, so we're here. Matthew 24, 29. See how readily they come if you just do it a few times.
And Mark 13 to 25.
Mark 13, 25. And I know you're going to remember the trick now.
Luke 21,
Good.
And John 2:20. Or Revelation 6:13.
Good. Everybody remember those? Yeah? All of these, I mean, obviously there's a lot more information in those verses, but we just went to those verses because they all deal with the stars. Yeah? 38. Brother Larry, 38. Excellent. So, what we want to do, again, it would be nice in a different colour. We're going to, I'm not cutting this line, but I want to make a demarcation here because I want to make a specific point. And what point do I want to make, Brother Larry? Good, excellent. Miller and Litch. So, Miller doesn't finish here. Miller goes all the way through to the end, but we want to make a specific point. In 1838, just remind us what happens. Good. Litch predicts the fall of the Ottoman Empire, and he says it's going to happen. I don't know his exact words, but I'll say in about 2 years. So this is Litch. And he predicts here that something's going to happen in 1840. Now, we didn't go into the detail of this next bit, but 10 days before the event, he's refined his calculations, and 10 days before, which is in 1840, he's going to give the date, August the 11th. Oh, if we're okay with that. Let's just come back down to this bit. Just 1 second. Brother Jeffrey, Miller and Litch. Do you remember that? Yeah? I want a Bible verse, chapter or chapter and verse, for Miller and for Litch.
Daniel 8:14 for Noah.
Good. Daniel 8:14 for Miller. Good. So we've got the book. Not 14. And we didn't do the verse. Good. Revelation 9. So he's doing Daniel 8:14 and he's doing Revelation 9. Two completely different books. I like trivia. So we'll just do a bit of trivia in a minute.
Yeah, so we had said, you said, the book says 10 days before.
We didn't read the quote, I just put it on there, but we could find it.
Yeah, so 10 days before. I'm just trying to see, is that 10 days from August 11th?
Yeah, August the 1st.
So that would be August the 1st.
Yeah, so August the 1st he makes a further prediction.
Interesting. I never know that August 1st.
Oh, yes, I remember what I was going to say. So Ellen White will describe in different ways the relationship between the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation. They're both studying different books. One studying Daniel and one studying Revelation. Miller is studying the book of Revelation. Half of this chart is Revelation. I don't know if we've looked at this, if you've ever taken a look at this chart. What's all this? If you went down as a column, what would all this be? This is Daniel 2. Sister Juliana, what's this? The next column over. Daniel 7. So Daniel 7 goes all the way like this. This is Daniel 7. And this one is... This is Daniel 8. So you've got 2, 7 and 8. That's about it. Then you get this central column. So it's Daniel on this side. and on this side it's Revelation. Sister Catherine, what's this? Yeah. I've already said this is Revelation. What do you know? What chapter this is? Yeah. Chapter 12. Chapter 13. Sorry? That's 13.
12.
That's 12. 12, 13. It's not as easy to say 14. Sister Wendy?
9.
No. Sister Rachel?
17.
12, 13, 17. 12, 13, 17. The artwork, don't be deceived by. It's the same animal all the way through. It's hard to see because the colours are faded. 7-headed beast, 7-headed beast, 7-headed beast. All the way through. 12, 13, 17. And here, this is 9. Yeah. So 2, 7 goes all the way down. 2, 7, 8, it ends. Then Revelation 12, 13, 17 and 9. Everybody okay with that? So Miller is studying Revelation, but I just want to, just a bit of trivia as we close. There's 66 books in the Bible. Yeah? Brother Larry, how many in the Old Testament?
37.
Nearly. Or if you know the New, we can do it that way, I don't mind. Brother Jeffrey, do you know? Sister Denise? Brother Douglas? No? Sister Catherine?
38.
Nearly. 39. There's 39, and if Brother Jeffrey can do the maths for us. Yeah? It's not easy because you're going to have to borrow. You want me to do it on the board so you can see it? That's fine. Well, we can go slow. 16 take away 9. 5 take away 3. 2. So there's 27 books in the New Testament, 39 in the Old. Yeah? Now, I presume we all know that even the New Testament books are not in chronological order. I don't know what order why they chose the order that they did, but they're not in chronological order. And neither are the Old Testament books. They're not in chronological order. They kind of just, I don't know, can't say randomly, but they put them together in some order. So the last book in the Bible is the book of Revelation. So what number book is Revelation? 27. With respect to New, so it's number 27. So this is Revelation. And the book of Daniel, what number book is Daniel? 27. Sorry? 27. It's number 27. So I really like that. They're the same number in the Old and New Testament because they're the same book. So that's just a bit of trivia. Sorry?
Very nice, I like that.
Yeah? Yeah. I think it's like, especially if you're into, I don't want to call it numerology because people will pick up on my words, but numbers are nice. So let's summarize quickly. Time of the end. We really haven't spoken about the time of the end and what it actually means. So I appreciate that, but we've got Bible verses for it. And what we've identified here is the deadly wound, essentially. That's what we've got. If you're going to pick up Revelation 13 and Daniel 11, part A at least, King of the South, King of the North are fighting. There's going to be a wound there. So that's what we picked up here. 16 to 18, Miller is going to do his studies. When Sister Ruth came up and drew this out for us, she added information. She added that Miller was 16 here, and he received his concordance, Cruden's Concordance. I don't know if you've ever looked at a Cruden's Concordance. Not particularly helpful compared to the tools that we have now. Sorry?
Big help to Miller.
Yes, the only reason I say that is to show you the power of his intellect, his intellectual. This man is a giant. For him to be able to do what he did with that tool is miraculous. That's why I say it's not a particularly effective tool compared to. They had Strong's available, by the way. Strong's was not pre this date. I'm pretty sure Strong's was before that. But he has Cruden's Concordance, and it doesn't have any Greek or Hebrew in it. But if you see what he manages to do, it's phenomenal. And the other thing I wanted just to add is we mark Cruden's Concordance, but this, I'm sure you're not going to know what a Luddite is, but I'll just say it. He's not a Luddite. He believes in studying properly, and he has a library of his books, and he has many resources. He consults history, both biblical and secular. It's not just like we say he had his Bible and Cruden's Concordance and he worked everything out. It's not like that at all. He had a vast, I shouldn't say vast library, but he had a library that he had access to, lots of secular and other religious material, just like we do. 16 to 18 he's going to study. He comes to a conclusion. He says in 25 years everything's going to finish. And the conclusion never changes in that 25 years. It's fixed once he makes that position. He thinks that he should tell the world, but he's worried that if I tell people what's about to happen, because they'll say it's not enough time, they'll just listen to what I'm saying, accept what I'm doing, and they won't study. And if I've made a mistake, they're going to be doomed. His fears are realised in 43 because he has made a mistake. So he spends another 5 years. It's 4 when you look at the numbers, but Ellen White says 5, so we just say it's including 18. For review, this is just review. After 5 years of review, what does he say? Nothing has changed. I've not made any additional subtraction to my understanding. I'm not saying it doesn't get refined, but there are no substantial changes. 9 years later, 31, he gets into a head-to-head with God, enters into a covenant with him on a false premise, and he has to now preach because he gives his word to God, and God essentially tricks him. So he begins to preach. 31, he's a successful preacher for 2 years. The church recognises this, and if we can say it this way, gives him a second-rate dummy certificate that doesn't have all the bells and whistles on it. But 33 is also the stars falling. So there's not just a change in his thinking or a confirmation, there's an atmosphere now in the land that something's about to happen, even if they haven't heard of Miller. So when they do subsequently hear of Miller, they're more inclined to believe. And the people who have already listened to Miller in the 2 years, they're getting really firm on this thing. So 33, he receives his credential. We've got the Bible verses for there. And now we're into Lich. He predicts the fall of the Ottoman Empire 2 years before it happens. Then he confirms the date 10 days before it's going to happen. And we've made this demarcation between Miller and Lich, and we've got the Bible verses that they use. Daniel 8:14 and Revelation 9. Daniel and Revelation are the same book. They're both book number 27. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your goodness. We ask and pray for a blessing upon the study that we're doing. As we think about the words that we've read, the conclusions that we're coming to, the implications of these things for us, help each of us, Lord, to take heed to ourselves and to follow the instruction that we're reading with all of the implications that are attached to those thoughts and ideas that you're giving to us. May each of us study for ourselves that we may be prepared, come what may. In Jesus' name.